What is happening, fellow pioneers of human transportation? I'm Yogi Steve, and you're watching ESA, the Electric Scooter Academy. You know I make videos about high-powered scooters. I hope everybody is doing good. The weather is really warming up. Today I'm going to bring you a 1,800-mile review of the King GTR. I'm actually planning on doing 7 reviews of my scooter. My working delivery fleet is 7 electric scooters. I'm going to release a review of every one of these scooters in the next couple of weeks, probably every other day. The way I do reviews is I like to sort of break it down into components. So first we're going to look at all the physical components. I'll talk about it briefly, and then we're going to take a road trip and I'll talk about the performance components. Sort of starting from the ground up. I do like the 12-inch tires. They're a little bit taller than typical tires, but 12-inch tires are pretty big for scooter tires, probably the biggest tires you're going to find outside of vehicles that are at higher price points, like maybe the Dualtron X. You'll notice that the deck, I don't know if you can tell, but the deck is quite a bit higher off the ground than a typical scooter. That's probably the thing that makes this scooter the most unique, is that there's so much more clearance from the ground to the deck. I'm sure that is done for people who want to go out and off-road on the scooter. I'll talk about what it feels like to be higher off the ground during the performance part of this review, but if you're going off-roading, this is the only scooter that has clearance like this. It's really the only scooter that I would say can probably be a good off-roader. If you know my history, I don't really recommend you go off-roading with these scooters. But these are 12-inch hybrid tires. They're not off-road tires, they're not road tires, they're somewhere in between. I sort of like that element. They ride just about as smooth as typical road tires. The tires should be relatively easy to do tire changes on because it's a split rim design. I had a little trouble doing my first tire change, to be honest. I had to bring it into Voromotors, so it's pretty amazing though. This is a brand new tire. But this tire right here is 1,800 miles old and barely balding. The scooter has something called traction control, which minimizes the amount of spin on the front tire. And I think it also does something very special to the way the scooter performs, because this scooter is in a category of its own when it comes to performance. The frame, the body is super durable. This is sort of what KAABO is known for. I really like grabbing this handle as I'm working with the scooter and moving it around. The hinge and the stem are a very, very important part of the scooter. Now for me personally, I leave everything in the upright position, but I know a lot of people are storing their scooters and they're constantly folding the scooter down and back. This is the classic hinge that's also on the GT. So it's sort of a vetted, very well-known hinge. I think it's somewhat intuitive. The first couple times you do it, it might be a little tricky, but once you get the handle of it, it's very easy to open and close at the hinge. The stem is the classic KAABO dual fork stem. I've really grown to like dual fork stems. After riding single fork stems for years, I really like the advantages of dual fork stems, and I think the future in the business is going to be either thicker single stems like on the Thunder 3 or dual stems like you've got on both the big KAABOs, on the InMotion RS as well, but I think the general market's going to really like the dual stems above single stem scooters. If I have a gripe about the scooter, it's basically the rear brakes. I've adjusted these a million times, and I just find that the rear brakes on this are relatively weak. And straight up, for a 138-pound scooter, this scooter needs the dual piston zooms that are now on the market. You don't necessarily need to upgrade. Like I said, I've already got 1,800 miles on this scooter with the stock brakes, but I think the brakes are slightly inadequate, meaning that you just got to put a lot more muscle into squeezing when you're trying to brake the scooter. So if it was an easy thing to do, I would upgrade the brakes, but it's sort of a process, and I've been very happy with it at 1,800 miles. The readout is somewhat readable in the sunlight. It's not perfect, but like a lot of scooters, when the summer gets here, it's a little difficult to read, but this display is relatively easy to read. It's got the thumb throttle. I don't know how much I like that or don't like that. To me, throttles are all about variety. I like having variety since my hands basically bother me. I think it's good to have a good selection of variety. But overall, I give general high marks on the tires, on the general frame, on the hinge, on the dual stem, on the readout, on the finger throttle control. All those have above average marks, a very, very high-end scooter. Now, as far as performance goes, acceleration, speed, range, let's talk about that while we take a trip to the Smoke Machine Supply Shop. You know it, I got cash in my pocket. We're picking up supplies. Let's go. I think the first thing you're gonna notice on this scooter is how high off the ground you are. I mean, this is a unique type of scooter when it comes to how high it is off the ground. It definitely takes a little bit of getting used to, but to be honest with you, now that I'm completely used to it, I love being higher off the ground. It gives me a better perspective on other cars. I feel like it makes me more easily viewable to the other cars. And hey, I'm like an average height guy. I'm only like 5'9" and a quarter, 5'9" and change. So to be tall for once in my life, it's pretty fucking sick. I mean, this scooter is almost but not quite self-balancing. You can see I'm holding like very slow speeds there and not having to get off the scooter. So yeah, being high off the ground, for me, it's like a huge advantage. I really like it. I feel a little bit shorter when I'm on my other scooters. The next thing I notice when I'm on this scooter is the incredible durability going over bumps. You know, it's got the bigger tires, but it's also got a very, very burly, very, very beefy suspension system, both front and back. It's got the dual forks in the front, the spring suspension in the back. Some people might call that motorcycle style suspension. But when I'm going over a big giant bump, this is the scooter I want to be on. If I'm going to hit a bump that I'm not prepared for, I want to be on this scooter. I don't necessarily believe any of these scooters are good for off-roading. I think it's a great way to find your scooter in the shop. But if you have to go off-roading with your scooter, I think the GTR might be the scooter for you, just because of the bigger tires, the higher deck, and the general extra durability of the scooter. Let's talk about performance, the things that most people are fixated on, which I think are actually less important. So part of performance is the suspension. I'm already touching on the suspension stuff. Come on, I don't want to run over your kids. So suspension is a big part of performance, right? I'm not what I call a suspension queen, meaning that it's not that important to me. I feel like these big scooters that are heavy with big tires, the vehicle absorbs most of the road for you. Now that being said, this scooter has a relatively cushy suspension, very burly, definitely has some play in the deck, some bounce in the deck. But it does seem to be an upgraded suspension from the King GTR, the model that was released before here. But again, when you're hitting bumps on this scooter, I think that's when suspension is important. This scooter just eats the ground up. It's 138 pounds. It's got these monster front and back shocks. So suspension-wise, the scooter is amazing. And now acceleration, I'll flip us into third and we'll accelerate. So crazy thing about this scooter is it's got a sine wave controller, which just means it has smooth acceleration when you hit the throttle. It also has this traction control, which minimizes the spinning of the front tire. Maybe it does other stuff too, because I feel like the way this scooter accelerates, it's a really, really incredibly smooth acceleration curve. You trigger it, you get some acceleration, and then every moment you just seem to go faster and faster. So I do like the way this scooter accelerates. It is sort of a smooth acceleration curve. Definitely incredibly fast. On paper, they say this scooter is faster than the RS, the Thunder 3, than the Nami, but I'm not exactly sure of that. I think the RS has better off-the-line acceleration. But regardless, this scooter accelerates like a motherfucker. Front tire barely spins, which is amazing. I showed you the front tire, right? Why it's barely worn down. When you really start riding a lot of miles on your scooters, you start worrying about things like how long is the front tire going to wear? How long is the front tire going to last? Because we know they don't last that long. I'm even putting myself back in second. Third is too fast for me. I think the scooter goes all the way up to 5. I never even put it in 5. I never even put it in 4 or 3. Like 2 brings me to like 35 miles an hour. It's perfect for riding around. But fantastic acceleration. Now when it comes to top speed, I think the scooter has been sort of vetted by other YouTubers at like 65. I've only taken it 55. I don't really want to go faster than that. I generally only drive it in the low 40s. I feel like you're not really going to be out here on a scooter in the 50s and 60s anyhow. I think the scooter goes 65 miles per hour. I know at 55 it was incredibly stable. That's one thing I just love about this. That's one thing I love about the dual fork system. It's just super fucking stable at speed. So yes, probably 65 miles per hour top speed for sure. We're creeping our way towards the smoke machine supply shop. Something I like about this scooter is you can change gears while you're riding. Not all scooters can do that. Like on the Thunder 3, you have to take your hand off the handlebar to switch. But here with one finger, I can go to second to third. So to save my front tire, just overall, I usually put it in second gear. It's kind of tame. And then once I get off the ground, pop it in the third. Put myself ahead of all this traffic. So as far as range goes, I think these scooters with these types of batteries, like low 30 to low 40 amp hour batteries, you can almost say they have 1 mile per amp hour in general. So this is like I think it's a 32 amp hour battery, I'm not even sure. I know I get about 35 delivery miles on it. My delivery miles are done in the high 30, low 40 mile per hour range. If you think you're gonna come out here and ride scooters at the highest gears and get a lot of range, you're wrong. If you're gonna drive in 4th and 5th gear, I'd imagine you're only gonna get 20, 25 miles range. But if you drive it like a person typically is gonna drive it, like here I am, 44 miles per hour on Sunset. This is the fastest anybody's gonna go. you'll probably get 30 miles range. I get plenty of range on it, I feel like. I think people get range anxiety, but I understand that. But this battery definitely is worth 30 miles range in the low 40s, high 30s, and less as you go faster. So if you think you're somehow going to drive 20 miles at 50, 60 miles an hour, you know, you're not going to get much out of the battery. Noticing at the light, there's a new dispensary right here. You should always check out the new places for like first-time patient deals. Another thing that I like to rate scooters on is what I call ease of riding, which you could qualify that as sort of like how fun is it to ride. But for me, there's this feeling between all these scooters, like one is definitely harder to ride than the other. Okay, so this particular scooter, as much as I like it, as much as I enjoy the performance, it's probably one of the top physically most demanding scooters to drive. Reason being is the handlebars are slightly low. I do have the handlebar extender on it. That's another thing. If you're above 5'6", 5'7", you should add the extender. It gives you a couple more inches on the stem. But I feel because the brakes are not like super strong, and I feel that I'm a little bit not in perfect position in relation to the stem, this scooter is hard to drive. So it is fun, but this scooter is probably one of my top most physically demanding scooters to drive. Well, what do you expect? It's 138 pounds. It's really the biggest scooter in this class. You know, this class meaning like a $4,000 price point scooter. This is the biggest scooter in the class. This is not a Dualtron X, which is, I think, 200 and some odd pounds, but that's like a $6,000, $7,000 scooter. So in this class, this is the heaviest scooter. So you can imagine, physically, it's a little harder to move around. It's also very tall when you're kind of moving it around. When I'm moving it around my apartment, it definitely takes up a lot of space. All right, we're closing in on West Hollywood and the Smoke Machine Supply Shop. Something cool about this place, I just basically bring the scooter right in. They don't ever cure shit. How you doing, man? Pretty good. I ordered online. I'll bust out my ID for you. Check it out, guys. This is what an LA shop looks like. Pretty sweet. It basically looks like an Apple store. Alrighty, guys, take it easy. Gotta know how to move this thing with one arm. It's so fucking heavy. I really can't stand that security guard, how he's always got his nose in the phone. Like, they pay him to do that. I also need to go to Target, so let me go to Target. If there's anything else I have to add about the scooter, you know, I'll throw it in there. But yeah, super fucking fun, awesome scooter. Don't forget to use my bonus code, ESAGTR, get you $300 off. You need it. This is a $4,000 scooter. It's a lot of money. I got everything I needed from Target. I hope you guys learned everything you needed to know about the King GTR. Please put questions in the comments down below. I'm always happy to help you. Make sure you set your notification for the live stream as well. We're talking about this scooter a lot recently. Always drive carefully in parking lots like this, by the way. I guess there's always oil on the ground. Okay, guys, good hanging out with you again. Like, subscribe, comment, set your notification for the live stream. Use the bonus code for this scooter. Use the link. I appreciate your support. See you next time.